Hey, welcome back to another episode of Dogging and man, that jingle just gets me going whenever I hear it. I don't know about you guys, but
That jingle.
It's
We're gonna need
it's
to change
dancing
it.
music, Joey. It's dancing music.
it's nice, man. I mean, I guess subconsciously it gets me excited about talking about pool because that's what we do here, right? So when I hear that music, I know it's us talking about pool, or it's Melina Mike talking with somebody else about pool, and I'm watching it on my phone, wondering why I didn't get invited. But either
Here we
way,
go.
that's
It
what
starts
happens.
already. It starts already. There we go.
Hey guys, let us know if you can hear us and see us okay. Big weekend in pool, lots to talk about. Melina set the agenda. Where do you have us going first, Melina?
Let's start with Raxx, man. Big event out of the East Coast, World Nine Ball Tour ranking event. A lot of the usual suspects and maybe the unusual suspects or the relatively recent suspects. I don't know how you want to describe it as, but
Why they got to be suspects?
There's one. It was
well,
good.
yeah,
It's got
they're in the
such a negative
International
crosshairs.
flavor
connotation.
to it.
Yeah, well,
Good
they're in the
international
crosshairs.
flavor to it for sure.
Yeah. Well, everybody's here, boys. Everyone's here. We know there's a lot of events going on. It seems like promoters and venues are just fighting for their spot on the calendar. There's just tons to go on, but this weekend by itself was Raxx to be for everyone. So a lot of Europeans, a lot of Asian players were there. Not quite the field, like there wasn't no Taiwanese players or anything like that, but it was still pretty stacked.
Well, thank
It seemed
God
like
we had no Americans in the final 24.
Well,
as,
let's start with the Americans,
as it
boys, because
was.
there was a few that was there. Billy Thorpe was there, BJ Ussery,
Yeah,
Lucas, Shane Wolford.
yeah.
I think those were the 4 or 5 name guys who were there fighting to kind of get their piece of points, but none of them seemed to last very long, Mike.
Well, a couple of them made some. BJ won a couple of good matches. Shane Wolford beat Albin, right? Pretty handily.
He did.
So there were guys who did a couple, had what I thought were pretty good performances. But at the end of the day, when you look at Final 8, Final 4, it's primarily European. So when the Europeans come over here, it's like, it's payday for them when they come to the U.S. for a, 8-week stint running through these tournaments. They fatten up pretty well.
Yeah, they definitely exhibit their dominance. There's no question about it, and this weekend was no exception. I was a little disappointed an American didn't make it further and kind of get in the mix there. But at the same time, it's kind of played out the way that you would expect. Some surprises, Billy going 2-0. I think that was a
Yeah.
surprise, especially considering we just had Jeremy on and he said he's been hitting the balls pretty well. It looks like he's playing better. I'm sure Billy probably has 15,000 reasons why that happened, but we all when we lose Hill, we all have some excuses. But
I don't think that the Jeff match wasn't one that you can stub your nose at a little bit, because Jeff is a tough player. We all know
Yeah.
that. We have I have my personal opinions about Jeff, but you can't hate on the guy's game.
No.
The guy is a strong competitor. Really strong. I think he's a much better 9-ball player than he is a traditional like Filipino 10-ball player. And he gets out when he needs to. Going hill with them. That part I'm fine with. That's just
Yeah,
you
right.
flip the coin. You kind of take your lumps if they're there, and it was. But losing to, I think, Fingers in the one loss side, that was the one that had me kind of scratching my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of those you can't even say, well, it was Hill. Well, no, it shouldn't have been Hill.
Yeah. And especially if that's what you're going after, right? You're there to get points. You're there to
Right.
make names. And on the flip side of it, you had guys that, even though they didn't have necessarily like the furthest event, they certainly had big marquee wins. We talked about BJ beating Victor earlier in the weekend. I think who else did you mention, Mike, beating Albin? Was it Lucas beating Albin?
No, Shane
Wolford.
Shane Wolford.
Wolford. Lucas loses Hill to Gangflot, and we know that he's one of the strong European players whose stock is just on
Yeah,
the
good
rise.
tournament. Yeah.
Had a really good tournament. He should have beaten Federer that last day as well. So, it's like you can take positives even though you weren't necessarily there at the end. But for Billy, it was certainly, quite a bit let down, especially as other guys seem to be like gaining momentum on you or gaining, big wins on you later on in that same event.
Kicking Billiards makes a good point that BJ also beat Gerson in that event. That's no small
Yeah,
feat.
he sure did. So what does this do for him? Does it put him back in the picture?
Who's that, BJ?
Yeah.
What do you say,
Is he,
Joe?
is he in the
Outside
conversation?
looking in, I think he's on the outside looking in, but I think with the U.S. Open looming, I think that anything's possible, right? If he goes deep in that thing,
Of course.
these victories like beating Gerson, and if he can have a few matches like that at the U.S. Open where he beats
Yeah.
top competition, that's going to bode well in Jeremy's mind. I think Jeremy already has a lot of respect for BJ. He's talked about him being a grinder and being someone with experience. So I think at this point, still a little bit of a long shot. But I'm pulling for the guy. I really like BJ. I like his game. I like, how he hangs in there and fights to the bitter end.
Do we know if he's playing at Jason's?
Yeah, I believe he got a spot. I'm pretty sure he got a spot.
Okay.
Yeah. I know there was talk
Cool.
earlier in the weekend about him not being able to get a spot, and that was a whole conversation in and of itself, But no, I'm hearing he got in. And you're right, like even if he can't get these points, just getting these marquee wins under his belt,
Yeah, if he
you
does
know,
well at Jason's and beats a couple of good players at the U.S. Open, and Billy doesn't, show some advancement in these next two tournaments, you'd have to think he was definitely in the conversation.
well, we all peg Shane Wolford to kind of be in the mix, and that's part of the reason why his
Yeah,
conversation, at least for me anyway, is kind of an afterthought because
right.
I think it's
Yeah, no,
his
I'm
spot
I'm
right
just
now.
looking at the fifth spot right now.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
me, the only thing that's really hanging out there is the fifth spot, and we'll see what happens. I think
So
it's one of those where Jeremy might take a complete flyer on someone none of us are thinking of, because it's almost a freebie if none of these guys are playing at any kind of level that gives you a lot of confidence.
okay, so then I'll put you on the spot, and I'll start with you, Joey. Where would you rank the three guys, BJ, Lucas, and Billy right now? I'm not even talking about points. I'm just talking about where their game is at right now, and
Well,
maybe where they're at,
okay, I'm
maybe
gonna
on
I'm
Germany's
gonna
radar.
rank them more appropriately to who I think would fit best with the U.S. team, rather than by skill level or who I think is playing the best or anything like that. And so I'm going to go with Billy, BJ, and Lucas. And Lucas is probably playing the best out of all three, or could be playing the best out of all three. But I don't like Lucas going into the UK with all the screaming fans playing it. That's a big factor for me, right? And considering that you're going to have probably most likely have Shane Wolford there, as a first year player, I don't think that bodes well for Team USA. Now, Lucas is a fabulous player. I love Lucas. Lucas's game. Watched him play online. Very good player. So if it were picking for one rookie, right? If the last spot was going to be the only rookie, he'd probably be at the top of the list. But instead, I got him at the bottom of the list. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I look at it pretty much the same way. I would actually probably put Lucas first, because I would like to get some young guys in there and get them some work. I don't know if I'm going over there with Shane and Lucas both playing for the first time. I think that Lucas becomes a lot more attractive next year, having Shane Wolford with a year under his belt. If Shane Wolford holds up again next year, then it kind of makes sense. And if that's the case, if I'm Jeremy, I would probably take, if he plays well in these last two events, I would probably take BJ over Billy. Everybody keeps talking about Billy because he's got the experience and he's been there and we know what he can do. I just haven't seen it in a year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, chemistry is one thing. I'm not looking for a guy to build up a locker room.
Yeah,
I'm looking for a guy to go get me some points out there in December.
points. That's what it's all about, is
That's what I'm
points.
looking for. And I
Right.
get, listen, the rookie argument is fair. We saw it last year with David and Francisco, right? Even though David proved his worth on his own right,
Yeah.
after being there in December. But we know the value of having a rookie be comfortable out there, especially if you're afforded with that opportunity like Team Europe is. I like the idea of Lucas kind of being more prepped when it comes for next year. But if I'm Jeremy, I'm thinking it's win now. It's who's going to give me the best shot now to get me a
Yeah.
couple of points in that spot. If I'm ranking them 1 through 3, I'm going Lucas, BJ, and I'm going Billy. But I think the BJ and Lucas conversation is a lot more interesting and a lot closer. And these next few events are really going to be telling. I don't know whether or not they know, or maybe they don't give a shit or whatever. But Jeremy mentioned that he's not just looking at necessarily points per se, but how they're doing in other situations. We talked about that Moritz versus Lucas match that they were gambling on, and Lucas showing heart and coming back from a big deficit just shows how mentally tough that kid is, and where his grind level is at by himself. So there's certain things that you can take. It's no secret that these next few weeks are vital for those three guys in particular more than anyone. Jenny Ann brings up a good point when it comes to Hunter. I like Hunter. I've gotten a lot more respect over the last few months. His game, but he always just seems to be kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. Like he's there, but
you just don't get the feeling that he can win the big match for you. And again, you talked about two things that I thought were important, Mike, and that's points and win now. And win now is going to be tough no matter who they pick number 5, but Jeremy's got to know that the number of mulligans they're going to give him as far as having him to captain year after year after year only goes so far, right? So he knows his job's kind of on the line. And 2, I talk about it every year. You need to get at least 3 points, 2 to 3 points out of 3, 4, and 5 that do not involve 1 and 2 at all. You know what I mean? So it's not BJ Ussery playing with Shane. No, it's BJ playing with Shane Wolford or BJ playing with whoever, and they got to get a point in doubles. And one of those guys has to win a singles match. You need those points to win Mosconi Cup, and we haven't gotten them in the last couple of years. We haven't gotten any points from that 3, 4, 5. Well, 4 and 5 for sure. Last couple of years that did not involve Shane or Sky, and that's what you need. You need more points than just what those guys can give you.
Yeah, what about last year when Jeremy takes Earl with the last selection? Do you think that opens the door to this notion that it really doesn't matter? Because I see somebody mention in the chat Chris Reinhold, and I know Melina Mike's going to say, well, he hadn't been out there playing in events. But did that pick last year kind of open the door for Tony Chohan, Josh Roberts, Chris Reinhold, other people to be considered who may not be on the circuit?
Yeah. You ain't Earl, and you're never gonna be Earl. I'm sorry. Listen, I love all those guys. They're great 9-ball players, but Earl was an exception because of what he brings from the fanfare off the table. That's why Earl was in that conversation. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality of it.
But Matchroom stood on this, like, you got to turn up to events. This ranking system is important. And you kind of got the feeling with the way it played out in Team Europe where Federer wasn't picked, right? They were making a statement, right?
Easy.
We're not going there.
Yeah. wait till after we leave Atlantic City to have that conversation.
Let's not get in trouble with last year's news. No, but I think what Joey's saying too, though, is that Earl last year, Chris Reinhold. I think Jeremy can just take that 5th spot at this point and just take a flyer. He could take a Tony Chohan if he wanted to, because you look at Chris. He's had a couple shots. I
love Tony's game.
Didn't play poorly. Hasn't won a point. Oscar has had a couple shots. Hasn't played poorly. Hasn't won a point. So you're just going to keep throwing darts at the wall and seeing who can go in there and steal a point from you that the other guys haven't given you. So you've got a couple guys who you've rolled dice with over the last 3 or 4 years, and it hasn't produced anything. So go ahead, take a flyer.
Well, and that's something that if you want to give credit to Billy, is that in a race to 5, Billy can play with anyone, and Billy has been there before. If you want to give him, some pat on the back, it's there, it's realistic, but it's not there lately. That's the difference, And so that's kind of where you start weighing everything, especially if you're Jeremy. And who knows? I'm in the camp like Mike. Listen, I'm going completely off the wall here. I'm going with someone, who is going to just give me the best upside as possible. More than anything. If I'm going to go and play, race to 5 between BJ and Lucas, I might go with youth because neither one of them have been in that spot. So that's the only reason why I would maybe favor Lucas just a little bit more. But lots more on the event to go and discuss. Moritz and Carlo in another final. Let me take off this, and then we'll kind of breeze through the the last days.
Last word on Mosconi Cup. I'm going with Florida's best, Dominic Dunn.
There you go.
If you're going to take a flyer, why not take a real flyer? You talk about marketing.
If
You're talking about off the table support. Dominic Dunn could get this thing like going. Let's go.
If the Mosconi Cup was a race to one, if it was a one rack, then
Yeah.
for sure he's it. One and done.
Oh, dumb.
All right, guys. So last day we had Moritz beating Federer, heel. Carlo defeats David, and Federer and David were the talk going into the weekend. Me and Mike were discussing off air, but just how close they were in points, and these two are fighting for the second spot on Team Europe.
Yeah, big weekend for both of those guys, and I guarantee you they're looking over each other's shoulders, to see what the other guy is doing. So, yeah, David, they both played well. They both went deep into the event. David, ends up, I think, 5-6 or 6-7, something like 5-6 maybe. And Federer ends up 4, so Federer gains a little bit more on him points wise coming out of there.
Well, it's making for an interesting week because now you got one guy heading one way and another guy heading another way, right? We got Federer going to the Pro Billiard Series out there in Michigan. David staying out there in the East Coast playing in Jayson's event. What you got, Joe?
Yeah, and if you think about that, playing in Jayson's event, you got a chance to get points, and then you go into the U.S. Open, and we know that Federer hasn't always played his best under the big lights with Matchroom. So I think that might come back to bite him. And if he gets edged out, by a few points here or there, he might regret this decision and wish he would have went to Connecticut.
I've been the one to say
that. We back on Mosconi, guys? It didn't take long, did it?
Well, after September 1st, every conversation leads to all roads lead to Mosconi. Okay,
they definitely do.
They do.
Yeah, but I don't think that conversation for Federer is fair anymore. I think he's kind of, without getting a win, he's gotten that monkey off his back as far as playing a lot better. It seems like as of late on the Matchroom stage, he's had really great performances. We talked about maybe, a few months back that Tyler loss kind of being a blemish on his record, but now look at where Tyler's playing, and now it's not weighted as much, right? Because now we see how solid that kid has been over the last few months as well. So I don't know if I would get there.
You would think he should be on either way, right, Federer? But if you wanted to lock it up with the points, what Joey's saying has some validity, because if all of a sudden David goes and does really well at Jayson's, there's points that Federer just gave away. I think Federer right now, by my calculations, has about a $9,300 lead. So if he had gone to Jayson's and just broke even with David there, David would pretty much have to make the semifinals at the U.S. Open to overtake him. That's a big difference. Now, if Jayson, now you could tighten it up, make it a whole different story with a decent run there.
Listen, here's the deal. If David were to go on a run and then you got some other European who's kind of on the cusp, snatch up a U.S. Open win.
Oh, yeah. Well, that changes everything.
Now Federer's on the outside looking in, and it's going to be even more. Look, we know how great the kid plays. There's no secret there, right? But you got a chance to lock up an automatic number 2 spot, and you're in the best position as possible to do so, right? You go play this event and leading into the U.S. Open, you're going to be in prime position. Now it's kind of like all bets are off. And I don't know what first place pays out there at Jayson's. I'd imagine somewhere around 10,000, give or take, maybe in that 8 to 10,000 range. Yeah. But wins are going to be at a premium, boys. Let's keep on cruising along through here. We got Kazakis beating Delgado.
Great matches at Raxx. There were some really good matches.
Really good matches. And, I was kind of surprised with Kazakis' results. Not that, he's not capable of beating these players, but I just hadn't heard much from him lately. And it seems like he's in good form. Beating Al-Kaidi 9-2, beating Federer, which I don't think we've gotten to yet. But he seems like he's playing really well right now. And that bodes well for, his possibilities of maybe being considered for a wild card.
Yeah.
Well, you want to put yourself in the conversation, right? Big wins, stock being on the rise. I remember at the beginning of the year, we're talking about a kid like Sanjin, right? Now I'm looking at a kid like Gangflot, who seems to be making waves more and more consistently in every event. And now he's not an afterthought in a tournament bracket. Like, he's a name that I'm looking at to seeing what his win-loss record is and what the points are. He was up on Federer pretty big. I think it was somewhere around like 7-2 before he ended up losing 9-7 to him. I think it was a miscue on a 7 ball straight in. I mean, Mike could have made that ball. Pick either one of us. Either one of us
I
could have
think
made
a
that
lot
ball.
of I think a lot of the people who follow us probably don't know a whole lot about him. Neither do I, admittedly. Do you know much about him, Melina?
No. He's one of the few names of guys that
I
I
don't
can
think
hold
any
to
of
meet
us
out
knew
there.
anything about him until that Federer match. I mean,
No, the
until
Josh
that Josh match earlier in the year, on
Yeah.
one of those side tables, and realistically, it was cool to see him win that. But I remember watching into that match, and it was painful whether or not that guy was going to trip over the line or not. He was, he looked pretty shaky, nervous. But then I saw him run through this event, and he was taking no prisoners.
Well, he comes back after being down with Federer. I want to say somewhere on that same score line of 7-2, comes back and wins Hill. He's always had that stigma of not of maybe having a little more dog in him as the pressure ratcheted up. Beating Federer on a Sunday, it doesn't get much more pressure packed than that. I mean, I know it's not a U.S. Open stage, but it's the next best step, Mike, or next best stage, I should say.
Yeah, no, because we're talking about Kazakis.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No,
he switched gears, but he didn't say the name.
Yeah, that's okay. No, he played really well down the stretch there. I mean, Federer had a couple of chances, to put that match away and didn't get it done. I think he was up 7-4, right?
Was
Federer?
it?
And then
all I know he was on tilt after that match for sure.
Well,
But
I mean,
Alex,
he lost 2 matches Hill, right?
Yeah.
You have to feel, if you're Federer, you have to feel like this was your tournament to win. And he loses 2 matches Hill. That's pretty devastating.
Yeah. Well, we all know what he can do, and he's always going to be a favorite going into any event. He's probably going to be a top, I'd imagine, 3 or 4 favorite going into the U.S. Open, So we all know what he's capable of. Tournaments are a little tricky at times, but it's a big win for Alex for sure. And it still didn't take away from what was a great end to an event, because that Moritz Carlo final was just absolutely epic.
Yeah.
Depends on which side of it you were on.
Well, yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
No,
I didn't catch the match, but Andy Downs is saying that second match that he lost on the hill, he scratched on the break. So that's
second match
ouch.
he lost, the one to Kazakis. No,
I think
he
talking
broke.
about Federer.
Yeah,
No?
Federer's lost to Kazakis. He was up 7-2, and he broke great and didn't get a 7-4. Broke great, didn't get a shot at the 2. And then the same thing when he was on the hill, he broke and didn't scratch. He was sideways. He was cross table on the 2. He had to try to duck.
That's the thing about this break format that I think is so cool. Is you see the cue ball down in the kitchen a lot, or not the kitchen, but down where the balls are, right? Because it goes back and forth across the table. Sometimes it gets hit, it heads up table. Sometimes it gets hit, it heads down table. And to me, it makes for such a more interesting game than when you have the one on the spot and they're breaking the balls and the cue ball backs up towards the middle of the table or high up the table. Because you see scenarios that you don't typically see in 9, or at least before this format. And so you see a lot of cat and mouse, like in the finals with Carlo and Moritz. The first few games of that, it was a lot of, cat and mouse games, a lot of safety play. And surprisingly, Moritz came out on top of that and really took control of that match in the beginning, which, as soon as I saw the moving game, I was thinking, oh man, this is a big advantage to Carlo. Right. But Moritz played really well and kind of came out of that part on top.
Yeah.
What do you say, Mike?
No, he played. He played really well. But it was interesting. I noticed toward the end of the match, the last 2 racks that Carlo broke, he had that 2 ball and the cue ball both down on the bottom rail, like it's exactly the way he wanted it,
like a plan.
Yeah, it did look like a plan because they were both identical breaks. Where the one went in the side, the cue ball and the 2 balls stayed down at the bottom of the table, and the cue ball went down there with it, and he had an easy shot in the corner for the 2 ball on both shots.
I think that was more role than anything else. I mean, you had a referee racking, putting the balls in random spots. I don't think that was
necessarily. The 2's always in the back, right?
I don't think so. No, I'm
It
pretty
looked
sure it
like it.
wasn't.
I thought it was. It was on the 2 racks that he broke that I
I didn't
noticed.
notice, to be honest.
No, I'm pretty sure because I remember specifically looking for the two ball and seeing it as
Okay.
one of the side balls. So
Okay.
that, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I mean, listen, we all know Carlos in that like filler type class, right? He's a killer. He's a closer. You better put him away because if not, he's going to put you away.
Yeah.
Ask Albin how that goes when you're playing the China Open against Carlo and you get a chance to put him away. Right, Carlo is a monster. He's a U.S. Open winner. He's a world champion. He's a very seasoned gambler. That guy can finish, and he can finish you and finish anyone. I love Moritz's game. His game is super strong. His upside is absolutely skyrocketing right now, right? When you get big wins in events like this, when you're not supposed, like maybe you're supposed to be there on Sunday, you're not supposed to be there on Sunday night, kid. Not yet, but he's there, and he's showing more consistency.
In the hot
He's
seat.
he's showing a lot more form, right? You couldn't be more proud of the way that he played. Obviously, when you miss that whatever it was 8 ball to really put Carlo away, that's one you got to get back. That's one you kind of have to make sure that you button that shit up now.
Yeah,
Because if
he's
not,
kicking himself this morning for sure. At one point, I think it was 10-5, 10-6, and he was in control of that match, and he let Carlo back in that match. And as soon as Carlo started gaining some momentum, I'm like, uh-oh. Like, he's not the guy you want to let this happen. You need to keep your foot on the gas against Carlo because he will find his way back in the match and win, and he did. And so for Moritz, I was really impressed with a few things. One, his aggression. We talk about this all the time with the top players, but there were certain opportunities where he took on shots and made some really great shots. There was one where he hit thin on the 7 ball, went all the way up to the top rail, and came back and carried the 9 in. You guys remember that shot?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was nuts. Okay. Well, I was like, why didn't I screen record this shot before it happened? Because I knew what he was thinking of doing. And when he hit it, I was like, wow, that would have been a cool like reel to put up or something. What a shot that was. But even more than his aggression and shot making, I really liked his defense at key points, especially early in that match. It shows that he's playing above his years, right? He's playing as a more seasoned player than what he is, right? And very cerebral. And also the way he handles the jump cue. I mean, he made some jump shots that were just insane. Jumping the ball and drawing back 4 or 5 feet. Come on. So he's going to be a dangerous player for a very long time. We collect cards in this house, like sports cards, baseball cards, stuff like that. And when you get that
kid's rookie card, is that
when
what
you
you're
get
saying?
that rookie card, you're like, we're watching a football game last night and we got Mac Jones's rookie, and we're like, come on, Mac Jones, we're rooting for him to do well, right? Well, if you had Moritz's rookie card right now, you're feeling pretty good about it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
No, for sure. That kid's upside is phenomenal. I think he's probably, like someone said in the chat earlier, maybe like 1 or 2 years away. But who knows, man? If he goes on a U.S. Open run, you want to talk about putting yourself in the conversation. Come on, Asia, because then you can really solidify what's a great middle part of the year. So
I could see a scenario while he was playing. I'm thinking through this scenario, and I'm like, there could come a point in time where the best 2 players in the world are Germans.
Easy, Tiger. I
really see it.
You're getting a little far ahead of yourself because there's still Federer, there's still Francisco,
there's still a couple of players around.
There's a lot of Asians.
Yeah.
Okay, just
in 5 years, we're gonna go back to this episode, and you're gonna have to bow down and say, you know what, Joey, you were right.
In 5 years, well, yeah, anything could happen. Is that the amount of time that we're working with here for this bet?
I think so. I think I give the kid 5 years. I think he could be literally one of the top players in the world, if not the best.
Mark your calendars, kids.
No,
5 years from now, we're going
I got Molino and Tilde. You had to move us around.
Yeah, right.
Well, Joey's just
Moritz, Molina. I'm getting some jelly on Moritz at the U.S. Open, right?
Oh yeah, listen, this is what Raymond's talking about when it comes to DraftGate, because Raymond is real salty about you pointing out Moritz to me. He's saying there's some collusion going on between the two of us. Look, I've liked that kid for a while, for a real long time, and I said this during the draft show, but I said my eyes were literally on him as Mike is saying those words. I'm looking at his name on my phone, and then I said, you know what, let's run with it. I'm in. He was the absolute value at that price, without a doubt. But no. I like guys who are going the right way. that kid's going the right way. And even though he came up short, he's so young. How old is he, Mike? Like less than 20, right?
No,
19
I
or
think
something, right?
I think he's. Well, now you guys got me. I thought he was 21, but I could be wrong.
Either way, man, when you're that young and you're already having these kind of Steven's saying 18, yeah, he's
I
young.
thought he was
I know
19.
I know when I interviewed, well, I knew he was real young when I interviewed him last year in Michigan. Ironically enough, the Pro Billiard Series event that's coming up this week, this is when I first interviewed him out there, and the audio was terrible. But we're gonna try to get him on, right, Mike? You're gonna try to get him on,
Yeah,
maybe
no,
tomorrow.
he'll be on the next couple days here for sure.
Okay, good deal. I want to see, where his thoughts are. He's a real smart kid, man. Very aware.
Hey, Pinozzo, can you invite me to that?
Here we go. Here we go.
If I can clear it with the man at the top.
Yeah, here we go. All right. Speaking of the Pro Billiard Series, are we done with?
He's
Raxx
19, turns 20 in November, and Neil
Yeah.
Soloway gives us that information. He seems very certain of it. So,
Well, there we go.
November. Yeah, he must be on. In time.
What are your guys' closing thoughts on the event?
I thought it was a really good event. I thought it had a great field. The play was really solid. These are the type of medium level points events that I would like every World 9-Ball Tour quote, secondary event be. Just like this. These are, you go into a country, you have 2 or 3 of these leading up to the major, be great.
yeah, I thought overall, I enjoyed the event. I got to watch a little bit of it yesterday. I thought the stream was nice, very clear. I will say this: the commentating, I thought,
100% rating.
3 in the booth. If you're not used to working together, is a little tough, right? Because you got people.
You guys had some passionate thoughts on the commentators throughout the event.
I was not going to bring anything up publicly.
I'm going to bring that up on our Patreon.
Here we go. We're going to save for Patreon.
We're going to save it for Patreon because
fair enough.
Well, and the question that we're going to talk about on Patreon is, when you're commentating a professional match, should there be a minimum skill level to the commentators? Right?
Yeah, we should know the announcers' Fargo rates.
Well, if that's the case, I'll never do a fucking podcast again. Then
there's a few exceptions.
Well, if you're doing play-by-play,
yeah.
But if you're doing
play-by-play and color are 2 different things.
If you're doing color, then I want the Fargo rates for who's announcing.
Yeah, because I don't want to hear how you would shoot the ball. No offense, if you're a 550 Fargo, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to know how you would shoot the ball. I want to hear from a 750 Fargo. Like, here's some of the options and some of the things that I would be going through my head.
Okay.
Enough said. But we're going to talk about that on Patreon, so make sure to tune in. We'll have a video on that where we get way down into it, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, there you go. All right, let's move along, boys. We got the
Wait a second here. Mike is old enough to do play-by-play in black and white.
Wow,
that's a cold roll right there.
Listen, if the shoe fits, Cinderella, that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, by the way, I don't know about you guys, but I thought in the final that the table I thought was playing pretty slow. Did you guys notice that? It seemed like they were really having to force the ball around the table, or was that just me? It looked like new cloth. But when they would hit the ball, especially a player like Carlo, who really gets into a stroke, and you see the cue ball react really well typically and move far across the table, it seemed like they were having to force balls to get that cue ball moving. Maybe it was just the rails on the Brunswick or something. I don't know.
Huh. I did not know.
They're playing on like AMF tables, aren't they?
I thought they were Brunswicks. They look like Brunswicks.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they were AMF tables. That wasn't even a joke, Mike. By the way, that was
really?
that was a absolute truth.
Hardest table I ever played on was an AMF table in Greensboro, North Carolina. That sucker was like super tight.
That one time at the Super Billiards Expo.
All right, boys. This warm up for the Super Billiard Expo.
Here we go. All right, you guys. We got Predator Pro Billiard Series event starting, I think, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 days from now, Wednesday. I think Wednesday. Yeah. So payouts. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit, because this is a little bit. There we go. Let's get into here. All right. 22,000 for first, 13,000 for second, and then it kind of goes from there: 6,000, 3,000, and then 1,500. This event is not going to be obviously a World 9-Ball Tour event because it's going to be 10-ball. What are you guys thinking, man?
I'm thinking, I'm looking at the prize list, and I know why Federer's there.
Why for that 22?
Yeah, I mean, of course, this has got to be twice, more than twice what Jayson's event's paying, right? And he's going to have 9,000 killers there.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the players list, and since
Well,
you bring
and
that up,
not to mention, Federer's had success in these. I think he won the first one they ever had in Arizona, I believe. I think he's won 2 of them now, actually.
Wow, I'm supposed to be able to read this? Holy shit.
easy.
I
there,
took a
Mike.
look at the players list, and I had 26 players over a 750 Fargo in this event.
There's some decent names, Al Youssef and Al Awadi. Let's see here.
Jovan Bustamante.
There we go. There we go. Your
boy
guys
Joey.
get ready for the U.S. Open playing 10-ball.
Young Ling Chang, he likes the Predator events.
By the way, Chang Jun-Lin just came off a win out there playing a Chinese 8-ball event where I think he scooped up like a cool 30,000 over the weekend. So his pocketing, at least if nothing else, is going to be pretty sharp leading into the events coming up here in the States. You got Robbie Capito. Let's see here. Ernesto.
I have the list sorted, Mike. I can run down the list. We got
I love
Federer, we got Kwok,
because the tables.
We got Chang Jung-Lin. We have Aloysius Yap, Albin Ocean, Wojciech, Victor,
wow,
Kazakis, Max Lechner, your favorite, I know, Daniel Maciol, Fortunski, Dennis Grabe, Gerson, Roberto Gomez, Juzician, Conrad Juzician, Capito, Jovan Bustamante, Janiuski, Botters in it, Tyler Steyer, Vitali, Van Leerup, Jeremy Seaman, Abdullah Al Youssef.
So it seems like all the guys that are not competing for a spot on the Mosconi Cup are heading to Michigan, not including Federer.
Fair.
Well,
Fair point.
Albin surprised that he's there.
Is Albin there? I don't think
Albin is listed.
Is he?
Albin's listed, although this could be the.
Well, who knows? Hey, listen, there's been a lot of listings coming up lately. I don't know. Yeah. Which we're gonna get to that here in a minute. We'll say that for the dessert at the end. Is Albin listed? Let me see here.
Yeah, he's on there.
Is he? Ocean. Oh yeah, he is. Okay. Well, let's talk. I mean, Albin's. No, I'm just double checking. But Albin, I don't think Albin's an automatic. I'm really surprised he's not heading over there to.
Yeah, no, he's far from an
Jayson's
automatic. That's why I'm surprised as well.
So I read off everybody that was greater than 750 except Lukatos from Greece. But then there's
who has won an event, by the way.
There's 26 players in that group. Listen to this. This is the way this breaks out is kind of interesting. There's 26 players in that group, but then from 700 to 750, you're down to 8 players in that group, right? And then all the rest of the players are under 700. So it's kind of an interesting tournament. There's going to be a lot of early round.
So like half the field is no bueno. Is that what we're hearing?
Well, I mean. I'm under 700. So 30 players. I got 30 players.
Point?
Yeah, 30 players under 700.
But this event's a lot more top heavy than I thought it was going to be.
It's like there's a lot of really good players, and then there's a lot of amateur players, and then there's that smaller chunk in the middle, which is kind of interesting. But in that smaller chunk, you have Joey Tate at a 713. It'd be interesting to see how well he does. Other decent players, Paul Song's in there, Ernesto Dominguez is in there. So we'll see.
What are you guys looking forward to when it comes to the event?
The food.
Yeah, you obviously haven't been to Battle Creek then.
I have. I was there last year.
You said the food?
Oh, you were, Mike. You're right. Hey, actually, they had that one restaurant that was close by that was all right. Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, that place is all right. Yeah. Are you going back, Mike?
I am going back.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay.
Well, I'm looking forward to the free stream on World Billiard TV, right? Yep. That's always
they do a nice
appealing,
job.
right?
Yeah.
And towards the end of this tournament, there's going to be some great matches with the level of players in this thing. So it's going to be fun to watch. It'll be interesting. It'll also be interesting to be back to the shootout right? Love it or hate it, it definitely provides drama. People get excited about it. So I'll be curious to kind of tune into some of those matches where the shootout comes into play. And then I'll be looking forward to see how, a player like Joey Tate does, right? He's definitely an up and comer, and he'll end up getting his chance in this event, I'm sure, to play against a top world class player. And how will he fare in that match?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talent, that's for sure. I'm just kind of surprised that a lot of these guys are skipping, trying to pick up points where they can. I get, given the first place payout and even the second place payout, but it's kind of you're rolling
And
dice if you're some of these guys. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you're looking at points, not just points are not all about Mosconi with the world 9-ball tour rankings, whatever. It's about getting an automatic spot into the World Championship, getting spots into World Cup of Pool, getting spots into the World Pool Masters, things like that. So there's a lot at stake, but it's another instance though where here's this Predator Pro Billiard Series event, and there's like 3 Americans in the field and 9,000 Europeans and Middle Easterners.
Which is it's always been the case, Mike.
It's always been the case since the start. The U.S. players just have never supported this tour from day one. This series of events, which is a shame. I don't
Agreed.
get it. I mean, listen, they don't like the format. Half of these players are going there don't love the format, I'm sure, but they're going to play. It's a good event. There's good competition. There's good payout. You go play. American players just have never cozied up to the series at all, which is weird.
Well, none of them are also sponsored by Predator either, outside of Tyler, which is one of the few guys who's going to be there. So I'm sure.
Yeah, but I don't think that has anything to do with whether or not they're it's not like they're all getting their entry fee paid and they're all getting or guns to their head that they have to come and play. There's a few guys here and there.
Say that part again. Predator players are top level. Predator players are getting their entry fee paid.
How many are we talking about?
Let's run down the list, Joey. I'll say yes or no. Run down the list.
Kwok, Federgorst, Chang, Yap.
Chang,
Ocean,
yes.
Ocean.
No, just Predator players. Albin, yes.
Wojciech, Victor.
Yep. No. Victor is a Predator player. Yes, Wojciech is not.
I'm not going to sit here and decide if they're Predator players or not. I thought I'm running down a list, and you're going to say they're Predator players. Kazakis.
Yep.
Max Lechner.
Yep.
Fortunsky, Massio.
Listen, I know they're all Predator players, but you're saying that every one of those
Dennis
guys,
Grob.
their entry fee got paid by Predator for this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, Mike. A lot of these guys, a part of a lot of these players'
I
deals
think a lot more
is an expense account for the Pro Billiard Series.
I just want to say, going back to Pinozzo's point, which I think is a great point, right? If you look at the 750 and above players that are in this event, and I'm counting 2 Americans, Tyler Steyer and Jeremy Seaman. 2. And if you look at the United States top 100 Fargo list, there are 29, 30. They're probably, so they repeat the number, right? So if it's tied for 29th with the rating, so you go down to 29th on the list, you got 29 Americans that are over 750 that could have played in this, right? But they're not. And you'd think they'd have a good chance of doing well. So, players like, I don't want to start calling people out, but Hennessy. Hennessy was he was in that bar box tournament in Michigan, right? Yeah. Well, this is in Michigan, and it's what?
Well, why do you think a guy like Evan Lunda showed up to every event, Mike? I mean,
Oh.
I don't understand your point. I'm saying Hennessy's
in
Michigan and just played in the bar box event.
Getting paid is Predator paying.
Evan Lunda's a Predator player. He's a Predator player, or at least he was. I don't know if he still is.
Man, I think you think. But, I got to look. I got to dig a little more into this about how many people. The way you're talking about it, there's 100 players who can go to a tournament. Predator's going to pay all their entry fee.
Well, I'm not saying 100. I'm not saying all are created
I
equal,
don't know.
but
Yeah,
those top.
I
Listen,
don't know anything
none of
about
the
this. Melina could be totally talking trash.
no. I'm
He's
not.
been known to do that.
Unlike you, Joey, I'm not scared of my own shadow. I've said it because I've seen it before. That's why I'm saying it. I'm
I
not
know that
saying it
there are
because I'm
players
speaking
who
out of my
I
ass.
just don't know if it's as deep as you
Someone
think.
asked
But
us
I
in the
could be wrong.
comments about what we thought about the shootout format, and
No
we can
bueno.
have our personal opinions on that. But I'm curious, do you think that the lack of U.S. players that are turning up for these events, who you would think would have a good chance to do it, are not turning up because of the format? So do you think at this point it's a failed experiment?
Yeah,
In America, yeah, 100%.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've
And
heard from guys announce.
there's no other way to look at it, really. I mean, thankfully these events are around major events that Europeans are coming over here for. So yeah, if they're going to come over here, they're not going to fly back and forth home, 3, 4 times in a 2 month period. They're going to stick around here. So these are good money events for them to play in. If the Predator Series was in Europe, would all these guys go to those events? The Europeans? I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. Maybe
I think so, Mike. I think so.
they
I
might.
think it'd be
They
I think it'd
might.
be a lot deeper of a field from top to bottom if it was in Europe for sure. I would watch that a lot more than watching, 30 guys who can win, and then after that, no, not with that
But in the
format anymore.
U.S., there's no doubt that the format has kept people away.
So we
Yeah,
had Ozzy Reynolds on in the beginning, and we've talked with Karim before, and we were talking about like, well, what's with the format? And basically, the idea from that team was that it's something new that'll get people excited about watching pool. Maybe those people who don't normally watch pool, and
That's it.
yeah, at the expense of the players
100%.
a little
agree.
bit,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you? I don't know their numbers. I don't know if you know their numbers, but has it worked? Have they had people who haven't typically watched pool start watching pool because of the shootout format?
The, the numbers that I've heard from people at Billiard TV, they get really good numbers of people watching matches, whether they're all watching them live or whether they watch them, late or not. They get really good viewership. Is that translating into, um, you know, sales at the window of product? Is it? Do we have a bunch more diehard fans than we used to have? I'm not sure how you calculate that,
well, I think that
but
pairing with CSI is a very smart move, and I've loved that move from the beginning because you always have those
yeah,
fans who are done with their matches who are going and sweating them. Now, the format, while the players may hate it, it is getting people to go and watch it because I've been to a lot of pro events, a lot of like traditional pro events, be it 10 ball or 9 ball. The Pro Billiard Series will at least have people there sweating it because of the format.
yeah,
Even if it's 2-2, it's exciting because you want to see who's going to get to the hill first.
right.
You know,
No,
but from a
it's
but
exciting
there's not.
format for sure. That from just
It's lopsided because the players hate it. John Francisco says in the chat to pay for a hotel and airfare for a race to 4. They all say it's not worth it. That's facts. But I think from the audience standpoint that they like the excitement part of it because there is something to be said. But it's so lopsided that
Yeah,
there's no evenness
I,
there.
yeah,
you can make an argument for the format being good for people who don't typically watch pool. I think one of the great things about the format is that in that environment where you have the league players playing alongside the pro players, they can wander over in
Yeah,
between one of their matches where they have a 45-minute break and they might see an entire match, right? So, like you have that feeling sometimes, even at a shared venue where amateurs and pros are together, that you walk over and you see two pros playing and it's a race to 11 and you're like, well, I can go get a hot dog and come back when it's 8 to
yeah,
8 or
yeah.
something.
That's
You
we've
don't
all
exactly
have
been
right.
that
there. We've
feeling
all
at the
been there before.
Yeah,
at
it's
the
never fun.
Predator
It's what,
events. It's a different feeling, right? If you step
yeah,
away for a hot dog, you're going to miss key things that are going on in that match. So I think there's some value in that. There's definitely the biggest thing is the value in having the amateurs and the pros there together,
I love
right?
that.
The
Yeah,
amateurs wandering over and watching the pros play and being able to do that for free, not having to get a wristband, not having to pay $30. That's been huge.
right. So
I
is
wish,
go
I
ahead.
think I'm going to take the stand that I wish they would consult with the players a little more and make some more player-friendly tweaks to the format. 2 out of 3 races of 5. Something that would have the players more inclined to want to turn up to the events, but at the same time still create that level of excitement and drama. So, I don't know. It's kind of my feeling.
Yeah.
Joey's saying something controversial. Mark it down, boys.
Not really controversial. I would say this if we had
it's
Ozzy
Joey
on,
Ryan controversial. That's as close as we can get to it.
I would say this if we had him on the show relative. Because at this point, if we're looking at an event in Michigan, like America's Heartland, and we have 2 750 plus players from the United States entered in the tournament,
right,
they have to see that as a problem.
I love the diversity of the events. There's a lot of talk about that in the chat, but like this is the old saying, and this is what we're going to find out here soon if push comes to shove, is that you can't have a circus without the animals there. You can't. There's no show without the people who are supposed to be there that fans want to watch. And so that's the other side of it. Like I said, there's got to be some rhyme or reason to it. They've tweaked it before, and we saw that from the first season to the second season. That they've made some adjustments in their format, and we're listening to the players. But of course, scheduling makes it difficult when you got another event going on right beside it, and everyone's kind of staying on the East Coast. Because there's a lot going on over there as well, including Jayson's event that's coming up. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see how the weekend turns out. It starts in a couple of days, so
I don't know if this field would have been any different if Jayson's event wasn't going on.
You don't think a lot of those players would have gone over there, Mike?
Some of the Europeans, yeah, but the Americans who aren't there still weren't going to be there.
Oh yeah, no, the Americans for sure.
Maybe David Alcade shows up, maybe something like that. But I don't think I don't think it makes any difference on the American players or other players who are up at Jayson's that would be there.
Well, either way, it's refreshing in the sense that we haven't seen it in a few months.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a long while. Puerto Rico's coming up in another couple of months as well, along with Austria's coming up.
Austria first, then Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Austria and then Puerto Rico. So we're going to be seeing more of these Pro Billiard Series events. Hopefully the players do buy in to it, and start showing up more. I know the World Team Championships I absolutely love. The World 8-Ball I love too, because I love watching these different games. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Will they be able to support the Predator World 8-Ball event, Mike?
What are you hinting at, Mike? What are you hinting at, Mike? Come on.
Wait, do we have Ishan in the green room? Do we have?
What are we saying here, Mike? Come on, out with it, Pinozo. Out with it.
No, that's that's the October 7th question, right?
We shall see. All right, guys, we got Jayson's events coming up. I haven't seen the players list, excuse me, so I don't know who's all going to be over there, but I'd imagine everyone that we saw this weekend that's not playing in Michigan is probably going to be over there. I also know that the whole room is getting decked out in brand new Raxx out there at Jayson's place that's getting ready for the event. So they're sparing no expense leading up to this. It's $20,000 added. I know they're also going to have a stream going on throughout the entire event with a nice little arena section is what it looks like. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be watching both, because I just love watching pool and I'm just a sicko like that. But it's going to be a fun weekend. That's for sure.
Have they said who's going to be streaming that event at Jayson's?
Well, if you didn't get the nod, Joe, they might go with the second best option.
Don't even stream. By the way, if anybody wants to start streaming, I have a great stream camera for sale. So,
there you go.
Yeah. No, I did not get the nod. Sorry. I'm just curious. Is it Upstate Owl? Is it?
No, I think it's Mad Apple.
Who?
Mad Apple. They're called Mad Apple.
Oh, Mad Apple?
Yeah.
I like their streams.
Yeah.
They do a cool thing where they actually show one view that's the table as it's happening and a second, like on the side, an overhead view that goes a few seconds after. It's delayed by a few seconds. So you can watch the shot as it's being hit kind of from just above the table view, and then a straight overhead view that's a few seconds delayed. So, you can watch both angles. It's kind of cool.
No.
Yeah.
We'll get you the rookie card, Joe. Don't worry about it.
Shut up. I just want people to know about it because when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's pretty innovative for streaming. There's not a whole lot you can do with streaming. You show a table and
what kills me is the static camera that shows half of somebody's head at at the top end of the table, or nobody's head. It's like from the neck up.
One of my favorites was when Roy was like really getting into streaming at the basement, and they'd have like the camera showing the player approach the table, and it was kind of neat. And Predator does some of that too with their streams as well, and obviously Matchroom with their production. But
yeah,
it's kind of cool.
Hey, real quick before we get on to that Qatar fiasco, I want to just ask you, Mike, what I don't understand, or help me understand rather. There's also a women's event going on this week with the Predator Pro Billiard Series.
Right.
They also have, I think it's 18,000 for first, 10,500 for second. So it's pretty nice payday for sure. But I'm curious, why is it that the WPBA allows their top 16 players to play Predator events but not any other events? Do you know the answer to that? Or why
I don't. I don't. I talked to a couple of people early on in the year when it was obvious that Predator and WPBA were not working together on these events.
Right.
But I think that their kind of concession was they would allow the players to play in the Predator events. I don't know, just because the prize money is too big for them to say no to their players. I would have guessed more than anything. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that for sure.
A lot of top women are going to be there, including Wei, Kelly Fisher. I want to say Allison as well. I'm just Chow, Cuelee, Savannah's going to be there. Yeah, both Fishers are going to be there. Bean Hung, Jasmine. Let's see here. Who else? CLCO, the Tates. So there's pretty good competition.
Margaret.
Slateva is going to be there. Takac is going to be there. So it's going to be a pretty great event. That one is actually like, you want to talk about from top to bottom. I like that one a little more. Like it's a little more thicker when it comes to the field,
Yeah, no, this is the women. None of the top women are going to miss this one.
Give me a winner there.
Give you a winner there.
Yeah.
Chow.
Joey. Chow.
Jasmine.
Wow.
Ooh.
I like that one. That's a pretty nice pick. I'm going with Joey's. I'm going with Joey's pick.
Okay.
Christina.
Last longer.
Lateva?
No, Mike. I'm not.
She's awesome.
I'm not falling into that trap.
I thought I would pick Christina.
I thought you were gonna pick Christina for sure.
Which Christina?
It's Lateva.
Lateva.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting bet. Which Christina is gonna last longer? Takac or Lateva?
Battle of the Christinas.
Yeah. I'd probably say Takac.
That's right. That's where my money would go.
I'm hoping Lateva wins, but I think like just looking at their games, the way that it's been, I would say Takac.
Takac has this grittiness about her.
She's tough.
Yeah,
tough
that she just feel like when she gets into a tough situation, she just finds a way to get it done sometimes. So, but
yeah,
we shall see.
Lateva might have more upside in the long run.
All right, boys.
Interesting.
Let's talk about Qatar for a minute. What the hell happened here?
Never heard of it.
What the hell
my
happened
Qatar gently leaps. Yeah, that's what a disaster. I don't know. It's just befuddling, that it's this, refusal to admit that something's not what you think it's going to be or what you keep promising people it's going to be, even though they know that all these top players aren't going. It just because invitations were sent out, it's like, okay.
Look who pops into the chat right about now.
Who's that?
World 9-ball takeover.
Who's that? Carl? Is Carl in the chat? I'm not even looking over there, to be honest with you. Let's see here.
Carl boys.
You know how bad the Qatar poster is? Carl's on it.
Is he really?
No.
Oh,
he should be.
I was like, how did I miss that gem? All right, for those of you who can't see, I don't know how blurry it is, but here it is. So the QBSF is putting out like Matchroom style our players. These are the players who are committed to playing in the event, which I love for the marketing side of it, except there's one part missing, and that's that some of these players that are getting marketed aren't signed up and aren't going. And so two in particular happen to be the number 1 and number 2 players based off of the World 9-Ball Tour rankings, just ironically enough. And either one of them are going to be attending that event out there in Doha. So What do you guys make of it, Joey?
Well, I mean, obviously they should have done their due diligence and had confirmations from these players. It's just not a good look. Me, Mike, Melina. I was kind of tired of the whole debate with WPA and Matchroom and all that about 2 days after it started. I just felt like it was a little much. But then you see different interviews that are coming up, and you see posters like this, and it's almost like, come on, get your act together.
Yeah, be professional.
And then we wouldn't be talking about it, right? We would have not said another word about this until October 7th and the vote at the General Assembly. But then they do stuff like this, and then the players, this is pretty embarrassing, I think, for the players to come out and be like, hey, by the way, I'm not going. Good luck to everyone.
I've heard they just announced a big replacement, though, Mike.
Hold on. We got breaking news here on, hold on. Let me turn this off here and let me bring this up. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, no, it's embarrassing is for sure the word. I don't know. How do you drop a ball like that? If you're in the QBSF or I don't know if I can get there that it's on the WPA. And I'm always wanting to go.
I think they just got the list from the WPA and EPBF and whoever on who they were inviting, who they were, who's on their list of top 24 players. And they just said, well, of course, all these guys are going to come.
So new replacement, the man himself, the man himself is going to be making an appearance. Willie's coming back from the dead. And of all things, ironically, the Mosconi is going to be in Qatar. So
that's hysterical. I couldn't resist putting that one together for you guys.
You were behind this, Spinoza?
100%.
See, and I'm the shit stirrer of the group, right?
Come on, that one's good humor there.
Yeah, no, I
agree with Pinozzo. It does sound like a list was given. Like, here's the list of invitations, and then flyers were made based off of that list. But we all know, I mean, even if you're looking at like this week with the Predator event and Jayson's event, you're like, Albin, he's going to the Predator event. I'm surprised. And maybe he's not. We don't know for sure unless you actually talk to Albin and get his confirmation, right? So, yeah, you can't put out flyers till you have confirmation.
Here's the deal: was that Federer came out on the show saying that he was having a hard time getting a hold of someone from the WPA about getting a spot in this event. And then you had WPA basically say it was on the EPBF to allocate a spot for Federer. And then that's just things that we've seen on the show. That's not even including all the, the conversations that have been happening behind the scenes between these players and whoever, right? So then to have all this stuff be said publicly, all this stuff go on privately, and then to still, have something like this come up, it's
people operating things with blinders on and not listening or watching what's going on around the rest of the world. They're caught in this vacuum. That's always been a problem it's always been a WPA problem. Stuck in a vacuum, and you don't see what's actually or hear what's actually going on around you. And so you just charge ahead with your plans as you saw fit, because you think you're the biggest and the best and have the most money, and you don't really have to check in with anybody. It's not a new attitude. It's been around for a while.
I wouldn't want to continue to keep being looking like a fool, Mike. That's
the thing. At what point do you start saying, why? How much longer are we going to keep making ourselves look bad?
Well, I'll ask you that question then, Mike. How much longer is this shit going to happen? Because like Joey said, we left it alone. We weren't even. Then this thing.
Well, in fairness,
it was like a dream.
In fairness, we had to basically shackle you to leave it alone.
Well, that is actually true. That is actually true.
You were a dog on a bone, like Dominic Dunn when somebody cheats them out of money. Okay, listen, it was the same way.
I'm not above unlocking it, buddy. All right, by the way. So, but it's like some things you just can't look the other way on, and that was just more than anything too funny to pass up on, because I thought it was hilarious. More than anything else.
It's not even like starting a big bitch session about it's just
Yeah,
look at these
no.
guys. Do you not get it? Do you not understand it? I mean, what is it? You got filler on there twice. I don't know how many times you expect the guy to play.
Well, now he may get a few more barrels after everyone else is pulling up. So,
well, I don't think he's going, is he? Didn't someone mention that he was not going to Qatar?
he's on the
He's on
well,
the
he's
well,
on the
he
flyer
wasn't on the
twice, and
Qatar list.
he's also on one of those promotional ads that we just saw for those two players. He has one of those made for himself as
Okay,
well.
so
So
one out of three of them is going.
yeah, well,
Okay, well,
I don't know. If it were me, I'd be a lot more aware of every step that I take publicly, just to not look foolish. Then I saw a comment from Greg Hogue saying even he got offered a spot for, Qatar, and I don't think that was a joke either. I mean, it was really funny, but it wasn't a joke, So it's like it comes across a little desperate, and it's kind of just it's a little cringy, all this that's going on right now. So which I think it should be a decent event. I mean, I don't know what the format is. Yeah, the stealing pictures is a whole other mess. I'll let you boys
Did
go
they
and
steal
do
the
it.
pictures from
Those are
actual
those are
match?
those are matchroom pictures they're using there. That's like when he wins the championship picture, at
No
least for
way.
Francisco.
I don't
Yeah,
know who's. Yeah, I was
a
curious about
million
whose
percent it is.
images. I was curious about whose images they're
Yeah,
using.
when I looked at the flyer or the post, it had the feel of a matchroom, thing, which, imitation and flattery, they kind of go together. But to actually take the pictures, that's a big deal. That's no good. No bueno.
No, and to promote a competing event too. They're not listen. They may not be the sharpest knives in the drawer over there. Who's ever running that ship, whether it's the QBSF or WPA or whoever. So, I just if you wanna have some prestige and be talked about in a positive light, just make sure you watch where you step. More than anything. I don't know.
But the pictures, I look at like if
That's
we were
I'd
starting a
be.
tour tomorrow and
We're
we were
talking
going to
about
compete.
practice.
Yeah,
No, I gotta.
we
No,
were
I'm
gonna
really curious.
if we
There's
were
no way
starting a
those are
tour
matchroom
tomorrow,
pictures.
if we were going to start
Do
a
you
tour
want to bet on
tomorrow,
that, Mike? Do you want to bet on that?
I can't believe that if they are, that they're still up there. Because if they were, Matchroom would be on them so fast it'd make their
Well,
heads.
how do you know they weren't on them already? I mean, they've already on social media.
You take them off. You can take them off your site. They're still on the Qatar Billiard Federation site.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, they still had Federer's post up there even after he said he ain't going. So I
Look,
mean,
I don't know much about this stuff, but when I started the podcast and I'd have a player on and I'd use pictures to promote them and thumbnails, I would be reaching out to Erwin, I'd reach out to JP, all these people and say, "Can I use this picture?"
Yes,
I knew enough
absolutely.
to do that at least.
Nobody gets taken advantage of more than the photographers, as far as people just stealing their property and putting it wherever they want to put it, selling stuff with them on it. I always try to do right by the photographers because I know they get shit on by so many people.
Well, and it's so easy for people to grab their stuff and take it, right?
Yeah.
And unless they put huge watermarks on it, which then takes away from the quality. So I was always conscious of
it
that.
upholds the quality. I feel like.
What's that?
It keeps up the quality of them.
Yeah, like you see photographers that have their logo in the bottom corner and then somebody will crop it out and just like steal a picture and not even keep their logo on
the
it.
Watermarks.
You're like, son of a gun. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Not a good situation, but hopefully the last situation until October 7th.
We've said that every time. We've always said like it can't get any worse from here.
Yeah.
We always say that, and then every little bit it's like, here we go again. So, anyway, hopefully they do better. Either way, I'm looking forward to this upcoming week, you guys. It's going to be a fun week of pool. Hey, so just for you two guys, I want to do a U.S. Open draw show. So I want to go through the draw, talk about some matches, talk about the brackets, talk about the areas that are looking great, who's got more favorable matchups. I also want to do a show talking about odds, player odds, match odds, favorites to win, things like that. So if you guys are free this week, I know Mike's going to Michigan, so
I'm not going till Friday. So
okay. So Joey, when are you free?
Yeah, in the evenings late. Hopefully you guys like that. We tend to have a lot more viewers, I think, when we go late. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
on
great.
Pacific time now, and about 9:15 or so, I'm good almost every night. But Melina, we're also talking
9:15
about
Pacific time.
because yeah,
Yeah.
because Melina, yeah, Penozo will be in his pajamas. But we've
Molina's
also
gonna be
been
Michael,
in
Mike,
pajamas.
Mike will be waking up for breakfast at 9:15 Pacific time. What are you talking
9:15. Yeah,
about?
I'm having tomorrow's
Yeah.
breakfast.
hey,
Oh,
but we
here we got
put
Emily's on here too now. Holy crap,
we're
Emily and
putting
Carol. Don't you guys
exclusive
ever work
content.
over there?
Jeez, Penozo.
Yeah.
We're putting exclusive content on our Patreon, guys. So check it out. Patreon.com/dogging it. We typically will ask questions on there, answer those questions, have some fun. But we're also talking about, you guys know that I'm terrible at picking the winners from events. And we know that a lot of you do like to put a little bit of money on some of these events and have a little bit of fun with it. So we are going to have a little segment where Melina Mike shares his picks for some events, only available on Patreon. So we'll let you guys know. We'll market that when it comes up. And for you guys on Patreon, if you are inclined to make a little bit of a wager here or there, you can get the special picks from Melina Mike and mine, which you can take the opposite of. So
Definitely bet the other way when it comes to Joey's pool picks. Without a doubt, it's going to be a fun week with tons of pool to go and discuss. So we're probably going to be live probably every day. So as long as I'm not out of town, so or Mike's not out of town or Joey's available. So, but first thing first, I want to go through that draw. So let's coordinate and let's get on that because I want to go through and take a look at everyone who's got the most favor and who might be in a little early round trouble. So stay tuned. The window's open. We'll make sure and let you guys know when we got that going on. And yeah, it's been a good show, boys.
yeah.
Fun.
Hey, Mike, don't play the exit music. I'll tell
What
you
are we
why in a
doing?
minute. Just say goodbye. Peace out.
Wow.
Okay. All right.